All right, so I got my wood over there. Yeah, a little pile, which is very kind of him. I wouldn't have had any, but yeah, when I was up there checking in, he had just volunteered, said he'd bring me some. Well, they knew I was on the bike, and because the woman that worked in there was telling me about where I could buy some. But then being on the bike, you know, and all that, he had volunteered to get me some. He said, you know, they collect it, of course, when people leave, which, you know, I've been utilizing too when I'd see it. But so yeah, he brought me a few pieces. So God willing, I have a little bit of a campfire here tonight in the Shenandoahs, which would be real nice. His name's Mike, and I don't think he's a ranger. I mean, he's a park employee, but a nice guy, and I certainly appreciate the wood. Um, so yeah, yesterday though, you know, I said about getting in there later. We actually rode 303.4 miles yesterday. Wonderful miles. As you know, I talked up, you know, Pennsylvania and all that in a video that I did roadside earlier yesterday. And again, just beautiful. I so enjoyed it. We rolled into West Virginia, oh, probably about a quarter after 4 or sometime after 4, and then into Virginia at like around 5. And by the time I got to this camp, or where I ended up camping, there in George Washington National Forest, which is not too far out of Front Royal, Virginia, which again, Shenandoah National Park's not too far out of the town either, closer than the National Forest. But anyhow, so, you know, I wanted a free camp again last night, and just didn't want a chance, you know, coming up in here later and, you know, well, actually, I just didn't want to pay. I was going to say, as far as getting here in the evening and trying to get a campsite and all, I didn't want to mess with that. But no, I figured National Forest is right there. Why not utilize that? Because, you know, again, that's what I do as much as I can. But that said, yeah, we was rolling down through there looking for a site. I rolled up into this gravel parking lot area, and I checked it out, and I thought, you know, this is, you know, a potential option. And then I rode down the roadways and actually rode out of the National Forest and went down, you know, again a little ways, hoping to hit it again, because we were in and out of it a little bit quicker than I thought we would be. You know, it wasn't as big as I thought, but I think we were just like in a section of it. But anyhow, going down the road, I didn't see more of it, so I turned around and I checked one more spot when I came back, and then I ended up going to that gravel pull-off area. It's like a parking lot, and then like some trees, and then above it was just like a gravel lane kind of above the whole thing, and it was more secluded up there. So I thought that would be the place to camp. But sure enough, I pull up in there, and there's this big blue Dodge pickup truck, and I asked the guy, you know, guy steps out, and he's this burly looking dude, kind of a mountain man looking guy, and I said, are you staying here tonight? And he said he is. And I said, well, you know, I don't want to crowd you. I said, I'll go down, you know, down below there. And he said, well, that's, you know, pointed to a spot on the other side of the gravel road there. And he said, well, that's where he parked last night, you know. And he said, I could camp there. And I said, well, let me go check it out. So sure enough, I went down to the parking lot itself, and it was fairly close to the road. And he had mentioned about it being loud down there in that little section of trees, how that's a buffer up there where he was. So yeah, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go up there and camp with this guy. He seemed like a nice guy. So sure enough, I did. I pitched the tent across the road from him there, and his name's Roger, and he's 70 years old, and he's traveling with his best friend Wilbur, a big old yellow lab, probably around 100 pounds, and sweet as can be. And too, what was cool, this dog is like 13 and a half years old, and I would have never dreamed that dog was that old, because he sure didn't act it. He seemed pretty spry, and he was as friendly and as lovable as he could be, which, you know, typically labs are. But yeah, he was really cool. I so enjoyed Wilbur, but that said, I so enjoyed Roger. We were up, as I already said, till about 10:30 last night talking, and then this morning, he told me last night he said that he would make breakfast in the morning, and said he'd make some eggs and ham and some potato cakes and all that, and so coffee. And I told him, yeah, you know, certainly it sounded great. I wouldn't turn that down. So sure enough, this morning he didn't make the potato cakes. He said he just won't mess with it, which was fine, of course. But we had scrambled eggs with cheese, some delicious ham that he fried in his skillet, little crispy burnt parts on it that just made it so much better, and seemed like it was the best ham I've ever eaten in my life. And he talked like it was just cheap ham, from the store, but out here again everything's better. And again, him doing it in that skillet right there. But coffee, he did coffee with the percolator, which is sure better than that instant I've been drinking, which the instant hits the spot when that's all I've got. But that percolated coffee is far better, because I use a percolator at the house also, is what I make my coffee with, and make a good strong cup of coffee with it, and I really enjoy it. But then just talked much more this morning, and I didn't end up rolling out of there until probably about 1:20, something like that. And just a lot of stories from Roger. He's 70 years old. He's from Pennsylvania initially, but he's since Vietnam. It sounds like he's lived out in Colorado most of his life, and he just absolutely loves Colorado. But that said, he gave up his apartment out there, and that big blue Dodge, I believe, is his home right now. And he's been on the road for 5 months, and he had the back of it, all set up for camping. Of course, he had built these, raised platform, out of wood and had a nice, mattress pad on it, and where he slept, and he had storage under it. And then he had built like this, kind of like a, I guess like a counter, you would say, or something like that, or like a dresser where had drawers and stuff and for storage. And he also had a spot where he pulled out, and he had a big 5-gallon water jug in there, and kind of a pantry. And in the door of it, he had his spices and jelly and all that stuff. So he actually had a pantry, and had solar panels. He's running a refrigerator, a small refrigerator, and he's got solar panels on the roof of that truck. And again, he is just totally set up to be on the road, to live on the road. And like I said, he had mentioned he had camped at that site either just the night before or the past 2 nights before. So it sounds like he goes out and runs around during the day, and then he comes back here and camps at night. And I can understand why, because it was a good site. And I just can't talk about how good I won't get emotional. Sorry. I'll tell you, I'm feeling really emotional these days. I mean, I have been, of course, through this whole trip, but being here towards the end of this trip, I'm going to be probably fighting back tears during a lot of these last few, so sorry, but that's who I am. But Roger, it was a good company, and Wilbur. I so enjoyed being with those guys. What a blessing. And too, what's cool, Roger and I, we've got stuff we agree on. We're both hunters. He's a big, hunter, elk hunter and all that out there in Colorado, turkey hunter, which, I've told you before is my passion. But then there's stuff, we certainly would not agree on. He talks in politics and stuff, and then spiritual things, which I'm not in line with. And, but you can still get along with other people, whether, you agree with them on everything or anything or not. And it's just about, being with somebody and sharing. And he shared some stuff with me about his childhood and about his dad and how rough his dad was on him. And then how he made peace with his dad. After not speaking to him for 10 years, he made peace with him. And his older brother, 73, died 2 weeks ago. And so, anyhow, just to share with somebody, he's, completely open, just an open book, and just laid his heart out, and just, I don't have words for what a blessing it was. So, I thank the Lord for you, Roger, and my experience with you, and good old Wilbur. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking about it, because, say nobody wants to see that, right? But I'm just so thankful you were a part of my adventure, man, and that I got to be a part of yours as well. And again, Wilbur, I just love your dog. What a bonus. Makes me again miss mine, man, and I'm so looking forward to seeing them. Okay, yeah. I just want to say a few more things about Pennsylvania yesterday. I sent my brother Bob. Bob is he's lived in Pennsylvania for his whole adult life, really, and lives over towards Philadelphia. So I sent him a picture text, where I started out yesterday morning, up in that area, close to it, all the way down to the Shenandoahs of where I had GPS'd my route, and just showed him where I was and all that, and he responded and all. So I just wanted to let him know I was in his state, and I love my brother. I love both my brothers, and I'm so thankful for them. And so that, and then being in West Virginia, that little bit of West Virginia, that's my where I guess you'd say not my roots. I'm born and raised in Ohio, but my family roots. Both my mom and dad are both from West Virginia, and I've still got family down there. And my whole life I've been going down there to Logan, West Virginia, where everybody's from, and still lives. And that's where my Aunt Julie and Uncle Mike and cousin Jenna and Roy and Abe are. And then I've got, again, other family down there, cousin Carly and Sabrina and Chris, and a couple aunts, Aunt Bushy and Aunt Irene and Irene's boy, Brian, and sure there's others. I guess I'm not going to try to list them all, but yeah, I've always had a real, just heart and love for West Virginia, wild, wonderful West Virginia. And actually, too, I didn't realize I was going to be going through that small section of it yesterday. It was Berkeley Springs was the area we crossed through, was the town, and then, out in the country, and then into Virginia. So that was cool. I knew going back, I'd have to go across West Virginia to get to Ohio. And a pretty big part of it, Lord willing. We'll cover quite a bit and probably even spend the night over there somewhere. But where, I don't know, so we'll see. But anyhow, so that, and two, being in Pennsylvania, at one point yesterday morning, it was like 26 miles from Scranton. And I tell you, man, if I knew I wanted to do like 300 miles yesterday, well, really, I didn't think it was going to be that far. I thought it was going to be about 270 somewhere in there, but it ended up being, by the time I, all my running around and all that ended up being over 300. But yeah, so I wasn't going to go out of the way, but I was tempted to ride into Scranton there and swing by the office there at Dunder Mifflin and see if any of the old crew was still there, and then maybe go out to Shroot Farms and eat me a big breakfast of champions, have some eggs and beets maybe if Dwight or Mose was out there, making breakfast. That would have been cool. But anyhow, I'm sure a lot of you get that reference, maybe some you don't, but it's one of my favorite shows. And I'd say for probably a lot of you all it is. Absolutely love The Office. And along that lines, Parks and Rec is my other favorite show. And old Ron Swanson is definitely one of my heroes. Love Ron. But anyhow, moving on. Let's see. I don't know if there's... I think I've covered it, all the mileage and... Yeah, I think I've covered it. I guess if I think of something else, God willing, I can put it in tomorrow's, or I can just come back here soon this evening. But yeah, we're in Matthews Arm is the campground, which is the furthest north campground, only like 22 miles into the park, something like that. But the ride across Skyline Drive, so far these past, 20 miles has been amazing. Just the overlooks. I did shoot the video there at the one spot, I was sitting at a bench there by the visitor center. And again, although it's very hazy and all that, it's still just a beautiful, beautiful mountain range. And God willing, tomorrow, I'm going to ride old Zeke the length of it, rest away down south, and then maybe camp at that end, and yeah, something like that. I'm just not even sure. We'll see. That's part of the fun, just really just not knowing and just getting up and having an adventure. You know, wherever we go and end up is where we go and end up. I just, you know, commit it to God and just trust Him and try to have fun. And it's certainly been so much fun. Yeah, I guess that's all I've got for this evening. So God bless you all, and just thanks so much for watching. Good night.